I search thrift stores, Goodwills, garage sales, and more for possible treasures. Then I decide whether to purchase or pass. Watch what I do and decide for yourself. Would you buy it? So this is an idea of what my son and I found on our trip to New York. We're going to go through each of these things, tell you what did and didn't work, and we'll save some of the coolest stuff to the end. So this is that Chiron video editor. So I think this is like an extra keyboard. So all I know is it powers on. This is definitely something to sell. It's really hard to know what this thing will go for. I would love to get at least 100 for it. So this is that NEXT keyboard. I don't have the ability to test it. The adapter is not quite the same as a Mac or a PC, so I'm going to have to sell it as is. Some of them are worth a lot, but I pulled a key to look at the Alps, and it's a black one, which is apparently not worth as much as if it was a white one or a cream one, so it looks like it might go for 30. So this Concord sound camera mini reel-to-reel recorder, it basically works. It seems like it turns kind of slowly. The fast forward is definitely not fast. I have no ability to test it. I don't have a tape to put through there to see if it's working correctly or not. Interestingly enough, it had this label in it that said it was for, went for $5. So this may not even be worth selling. So this is the Mekka Portable Music Center, the player in a box, in a suitcase I should say. So it's a combined radio, record player, and cassette player. Initially when I plugged it in, it was dead. Now again, I wouldn't have been surprised if the record player didn't work because of a bad belt. The tape player, same thing, but the radio was dead silent. So my son and I took it apart, we fooled around with it. But long story short, what it was is there was a fuse that was blown. And now...
Know where you can find all your favorite Skechers shoes in one place? Skechers.com.
Who can name it that fast? And I'm going to have to stop it there because I think the swear's coming up. That's the Violent Femmes. We did end up switching the belt on that. It was loose and it was like a really distorted kind of, record played backwards devil sound. Perhaps most surprisingly, the record player works. Some REM. That was pretty good that it worked at all, actually. I couldn't find really any comps on this one. Despite how cool it is, I will likely sell it. I would be surprised to get $25 for it. So I had been told that the Macintosh PowerBook 165C worked. It does not. I do have the power brick. When it comes on, nothing happens. When we remove the battery, there is some corrosion on it. But we actually plugged it in with the battery out, and you could hear it trying to start up. It was like maybe the hard drive was kind of clicking. It really seems like it's dead. I don't know that this is salvageable, so I might sell it for parts, and I don't even know what it would go for. I can't imagine much more than $20-$30. So the iMac G3, when we started up, we were hopeful we heard that sound. But as you'll see here in a minute, it starts showing some error messages. So it shows this flashing folder. We tried a couple of different things. We tried to, cut into the boot and stuff. And we were not able to successfully get through and get it actually to boot. My son thinks we might be able to use a FireWire from a G3 that I do have that is working. And maybe he saw something online where we might be able to get this one up and running. It's not worth a ton. It might not be worth the time and trouble, and shipping is such a pain because it's so huge. But at the moment, as is, not working, it's not even worth selling. One bonus thing that I didn't realize was in there, in that original box, was this. A Yum poster. Think Different. This poster, and again, it's folded and it's not perfect. These things easily sell for $30, $35. Again, not going to sell it. Going to put it up down here with my other vintage computers, but this was a fun find. I was super excited to get this. So this is the KayPro. Knew very little bit about it. I ultimately did think the look of this was really cool. This is, a metal, kind of case to it. And when I first turned it on, nothing happened. Kept fiddling with it, turning it on and off, trying some resets. So initially it was dead. Started to do this with the screen, so I'm just going to try to reset it. I started to get a little hopeful when I started to get at least something on the screen and the disk drive started to go. So then at some point I realized there was actually discs in the computer. So there was this newest WordStar from 1988. And again, a bunch of times later, a couple resets, I started without that, and I got this screen, KayPro, please place your diskette in the drive. And so, I threw the WordStar in there, and again, it starts up right away, and was super pleased to see this. It does seem like it's working. Here's the kicker. A phone-like cord that goes from the keyboard to the main unit, and I don't have it. It's not a regular phone cord, it's narrower, so I don't have it. So I can't actually test out to see whether I can get this thing running. You can see the monitor's like a little askew, it's not quite squared up. So the fact that it is kind of working, the fact that it's this really kind of cool metal hulk of a computer made me kind of fall in love with it. So I'll most likely pay 15 bucks to get that cable and keep it. I don't think I'm going to sell it. It's a KayPro 2. I think it's worth about 150 or so, maybe 200. But I don't know. It's cool. So the G4 was billed as working. Press the button. And you're kind of waiting. Is that screen going to light up? Is the Apple logo going to come on? Are you going to start to see a desktop? Then the screen comes on, OS X, it's starting, and it works as expected. So again, this is going to be a keeper. I haven't really even looked up the comps. I don't think it's worth a ton. But it's, again, I don't have the G4. I don't have that base, with that really cool mechanism to hold up the screen. So this is going to be another keeper. So the Radio Shack TRS 80 Model 3, I had actually plugged this in at the place, and we could see when we looked through the grid that like something lit up in there, but we saw nothing on the screen. So I got it for a decent price. So I brought it home, I cleaned it up, and guess what? It works. So there you go. And it works. And so this thing was so friggin' awesome. I just could not believe it. The one thing is it does not have disk drives. They're just, the covers. So it would be nice to get a disk drive, but the fact that this thing works was just fantastic. In terms of what it's worth, I'm going to say somewhere between $200 and $300, but there's no way I'm selling it. It's too cool. So the last thing that I tested out, sort of the last thing I was most nervous about, was the 64K Radio Shack Coco 2. And I was just worried that it wouldn't work. I had to hook it up to an old TV that I have. So I turned it on, fearing the worst. And lo and behold, extended color basic 1.1, copyright 1982 by Tandy, under license from Microsoft. The next thing I needed to try, of course, was the game and the joysticks that came with it. So it came up with Bust Out, which was obviously going to be a breakout game. And I'm like, oh, please let these joysticks work. This one joystick was already bent, but the other one was in good shape. So I said, okay, I got to try this out. So Bust Out in place, turned it on. Number of players. Good sign. Take one. Gravity. Yeah, sure. Number of balls. Let's go with 5. And let's see what can happen. You can go up and down. And there's the gravity. And that you can go closer and farther away. There's actually a version with a vertical wall as well. So this is a better version of Breakout than most. It was, and so again, I was super excited. The one joystick, as you can see, works. Whoops. The second joystick, when I plugged it in, the one that was already kind of broken, it was giving some static, and I was too nervous to keep it in there, so I didn't. But again, I got one working joystick. So I had a couple other games because I had a different TRS 80 that ended up not working. It was a bad fuse, and even when I replaced it, it didn't work. But I had Chess already, Project Nebula, and Poltergeist, which again is a kind of a cool game. Pretty strange, but not too bad for the 80s.
So this is one of the mixers that I got, the Yamaha O1X. As you can see, it's working, so that's great. But it wasn't completely easy selling. When I got it at the place, it did not come with the power supply, so For maybe like a week and a half, I had no clue whether it worked or not. I had to order like a third-party one on eBay for maybe like 15 bucks. I forget exactly how much. Because I tried like all the power supplies that I have like a whole drawer of them, and then when I did plug it in originally, it was giving me an error message about the word clock, which I was able to look up and like figure out how to reset it, so it worked fine. But yeah, that was a little scary, certainly. Okay, so I can kind of show you some stuff about it. It's really cool. Like if I'm playing through my computer right now, I have it connected to an amplifier and just some speakers that I had around. And there's like the individual faders, but also what I have is I actually grouped these two, since I have like stereo ins for the computer, and then I can change like the lows and mids and highs and like all of that, so that's kind of cool. There's the stereo fader as well as headphones out and a monitor out. There's 8 inputs, a few different effects, and like you can pan and stuff. And also I haven't really tested this out yet, but you can connect it to like an older computer through FireWire on the back and use it as like a control board. So I'm definitely gonna try and do that with one of my computers at some point. One of the cool things I can do with this, because the faders are motorized, is I can actually program them on like different banks and stuff, and then it'll automatically switch between them where I had it. So that's kind of cool. Okay, so this is the Mackie mixer that I got. It was one of the 2 that I got at that vintage computer place. And if you watched our last video, you might remember that I had thought it might be new in box, but upon opening it up, it's definitely not new in box. Like you can see, it's out of the plastic wrap or whatever, but it's still got like the styrofoam and all the cables and stuff here, and it's in really good condition. So that's definitely nice. So here's the mixer out of the box and the directions, which came in the box. Of course, I haven't looked at them now, but so you can see if I turn it on, everything lights up and seems to work. All the faders are like really nice and smooth. There's nothing stuck in there or anything, and all the knobs and stuff seem to work. And I even was able to test it out. I didn't test out like every channel and stuff, but what I did test out seemed to work fine, and there wasn't like any fuzz or anything, so really nice. I looked up on eBay like the Pro FX12 Mackie mixer, and there were definitely some people trying to get like a couple hundred for it, but I think I can at least get maybe 100 or a little bit more, since it's in nice condition with the box and directions and everything. So this is the Canon 3CCD like tape recorder camera, and when I was there, obviously like the battery wasn't charged or anything, so I just got it because I thought it looked really cool. I had no clue whether it worked. And actually, when I like first saw it on the shelf, there was no charger, just the battery here. But like maybe 2 or 3 like places over in with some camera lenses, I actually found the battery charger, so that was really nice. So I was able to charge the battery when I got home, and then I tested it out. Everything seems to work. Like the lens works, the focus works. So then what I wanted to do was to actually test it out with a tape. On eBay, I purchased this Panasonic Mini DV tape because I wanted to try out the camera and actually see if it could record. It was, I think, $5 about, so pretty cheap. Put it in. You gotta press this thing first, and then it kind of takes it. But if you look, it says remove the cassette. I tried a few different things. I tried like turning it off and putting the cassette in, and I looked online for stuff, and there really wasn't a ton of stuff. But after a little bit of research and posting on Reddit, I think what I have to do is maybe replace some kind of gear or something in there. So I don't really know how to do that. I'm going to try to do more research, but if anyone knows how to, or can point me to like a video or something on how to replace that, that would be really helpful, because I definitely love to get this thing working.
All right, so one of the other things that we got was this, you know, I opened it up and I could see that it was a tablet. If you watch the first video, I couldn't even actually figure out how to open it. So, and I still had a hard time, so I'm going to turn it over to my son so he can kind of explain what it's all about.
What this is some kind of like 2-in-1 laptop tablet kind of device by Compaq. And that might be like owned by HP, or at the time at least. I'm not really sure about that. But on the back here, there's this little switch that allows you to release it, so then you can kind of take it out. And there's actually a bunch of release switches. So this one here lets you kind of like remove the top, not remove, but like take out the top half, and then you can kind of make it into almost a laptop of sorts. So then if you're done using it as a laptop, it can just become a tablet by using another like switch thing on the back, and then you kind of just remove this and you get your tablet here. The power button is up here with a few other like functions, and then over here it came with a stylus, but unfortunately ours is really sticky and actually broken, so that won't work.
I think it had a corroded battery, right?
Yes, I believe it did. When we tried to like plug in the computer in general, it wouldn't start up, correct?
Yeah, part of the issue is we didn't have the right charger. It had no charger, and we were not 100% sure which charge, well, like what the voltage was on the charger. So we tried a few things. I think it made a vague buzzing noise, but it did not fully start up.
So we're a little bummed that we couldn't get it to work. It certainly seems like a cool device, so if we can like find a charger at some point or something like that, it certainly would be fun to play with and mess around with.
So in conclusion, more things worked than didn't, and the really important things did. You see here a breakdown of what we think an estimated worth is, about $1,200. We will definitely not be selling all that stuff. Of the stuff that we are going to be selling, we might get about $450, which should cover our $300 cost. Of course, we had gas and tolls and things like that, so that might be a break even at the end of the day. Some of the stuff is really, though, kind of almost priceless. That TRS 80 Model 3, the color computer, KayPro for me are just super exciting. They were on my list. For my son, those couple of mixers, the digital mixer, and they were really fun. There were some disappointments. For my son, that Canon video camera would have been really cool if it had worked. I would like to have seen the MacBook and actually that HP compact tablet in action to get a sense of what they were like. But you know, there's a little bit more money we'll have to put into them. We'll have to buy that cable for the KayPro. And my son bought the charger for the one sound mixer and that tape. I'll end up probably buying some games to actually play, like on the KayPro and stuff. So there'll be some additional costs. But at the end of the day, we found some awesome things in one place. That's really hard to do at a price that was really quite reasonable. So it was a fantastic trip and really well worth it.